Hello, my name is Omar Abasad. It is 5:36 p.m., April 17, 2020. So just bear with me here. Just going to make a note here on um, Twitter. Just bear with me for a second. Okay. So going to start with the temperature around me. It's 37.4. And I'm going to show you the signals. I like to do this with my face on it. So the data that I post is verified that I'm sitting in front of the camera, and these are the signals in front of the camera. So the face, the power is turned up high. And I was updated outside the window that Rick has the account, the Black people have the account. Whether it's global or not, the Black people have part of the account. The worker is subcontracting, and he's logging on for Rick, and he is torturing for Rick. So these signals are, one of the people is the worker. So as I said before, the fact that there's an experiment being carried out in 25 Bamberg Circle in Toronto by PK, a Chinese trafficker, who sexually harassed me on the phone and solicited me on the phone because he heard a rumor from 23. That's not the whole number. That's the number he gave me. Or I heard that I give service, and he saw me on Twitter, on my Twitter account, ROSHINI911, and I'm talking about people stimulating my clitoris, and he wants to do that. So I just like to point out that what I talk about on my Twitter account, and sometimes I use the accurate words of your body parts. A clitoris there is no sexual connotation on the word itself. A vagina and the word of vagina and clitoris are accurate words. These are parts of the anatomy that a doctor would use. So there is not necessarily any sexual connotation to it. When I use it in that manner. It's not meant to have any sexual nuances to it. And if you read my tweets, you would pick this up. It's about exposing what's going on. It's not about inviting solicitation. And what PK said in his message that he left on my phone was he read my tweets, and he wants to, and in my tweets, I read about, I talked about, if you read it, I talked about remote stimulation very, very clearly, remote stimulation with microwaves and lasers or laser type technology. So PK talked about using an electric rod. So that would be a reference to lasers. And this is exactly what I'm trying to expose. Remote stimulation of parts of the body. It could be your mouth, it could be your eyes, it could be your nose, it could be your ear, it could be your jaw, it could be any body part, your ear, which is going to cause you to fall, give you dizzy spells, affect your balance. The ear canal is also the fastest way to change the brainwave frequencies because it just affected the brain almost instantly. So, and it penetrates and it goes through an internal channel and it goes and it affects the brain. So the air is used very, very, very frequently to do that. So if when the air is hit, you get a lightheaded, on a high power especially, you get a lightheaded feeling, almost as if you took a painkiller and you have that lightheaded feeling that you get. It's much the same way when the power is turned off. So the neck is being stimulated, the thyroid gland, which is causing swelling. The neck. And I'm in pain because right here is very sore and it's very swollen too. Like this here is swollen. The arm. And I took an aspirin today, not even a whole aspirin. I took, I believe, like 200 mg because I didn't take the whole thing. And that was enough to take the edge off the pain, but I'm in pain. My chest, that's my heart. And my hip was just hit, and that's the hip right there. That's the heart. So we started off with 74 point something, 75.2. And I'm going to show you the reading. So the EF is down here. The RF is here. And the EMF is here. So look at the EF down here and the RF. See, the RF is 11, 12. That's what's causing the pain. Actually, what I should do is I'm going to erase. I'm going to erase. Oops. There it is, erasing. It's finished. And I'm going to reset it. So I'm going to upload this when I'm done. I'll just post it underneath the video. So the EF, high, the face, the eye, the jaw, the forehead, the head. Notice the EF reading around the ear. This is how all my hair got gray starting at 21. And I'm suspecting that around 21 years of age, the experiment started. But I suspect that as soon as we came to Canada, and right now the new immigrants and the refugees and so on are probably being enrolled immediately. When I came to Canada when I was 16 years old, I think I was immediately enrolled in the program by the pedophiles in the area, and there is an ongoing enrollment because these rings are all over the world, in every area of the country. It doesn't matter whether it's city or outside of the city. It doesn't really matter. They're all over. And there are agents that are, who are always on the lookout for new recruits. So they're looking for vulnerable people. First and foremost, you have to be vulnerable. And who are vulnerable? New immigrants. And also new immigrants who don't initially is acclimatized to the culture. So you're going through an adjustment, and you're suffering culture shock, and probably coming into a country where the social norms are different from the ones that you grew up in. So there is a conflict between the young people in the family and the older people in the family, parents. So there is a lot of conflict and a lot of trauma, emotional trauma, that the victims have to be dealing with at the same time. That makes them even more vulnerable. So when you're in a vulnerable state, and of course, when you're a teenager going through the teenage years, it makes you a perfect choice to be victimized by pedophiles who are not only in the business for years and very good at what they do in procuring and customizing and grooming. They're also given on some of these high-level people in professional jobs, teachers, lawyers, politicians. They are given access to military-grade technology like the one I'm exposing right here. And they use this technology on their victims. So these technologies, as we know now, openly talked about, commercially used. Elon Musk, and he's gone beyond the chipping. He's talking the Neuralink with a cap that fits, that grows as you grow. As you get it as a child, obviously, and it grows to fit your brain, and you're going to be interfacing with the computer. And there's a third layer. So it'll be your brain, this cap, and the computer. That'd be the 3 layers here. Lasers could inject images into your head. Microwave technology. I just got a message. I hope this is still going on. Microwave technology could stimulate your body parts, and the two can be in sync, so that the images that's being projected into your head is in sync and it's coordinated with the stimulation. So in your subconscious mind, as you sleep, in your subconscious mind, it appears as a dream or a nightmare. Could be a nightmare too. It could be associated with pain rather than pleasure. The programming in your subconscious mind, it's imprinted. These activities are imprinted almost as if it's a real happening in your life. And as a child will not know the difference. With me, because I grew up in an environment that had we weren't deeply spiritual, but I guess I absorbed it by being around people who were. So and maybe a little bit of genetic inheritance as well. It didn't work on me, even though I was worked on very young in my teenage years. It didn't penetrate right down into my very being. It didn't become a part of me. So I didn't act out because there was this layer in my subconscious mind, starting when I was born, that countered the programming. Every time there was a line to be crossed, and as a child, you probably, and I'm talking, I was 16. I was not really 16. I was the equivalent in this culture, in the Western culture, North American culture, I should say, from where I came from, in a little village in Trinidad. If you compare the maturity from 16 there and 16 here, it was the equivalent of being 11, 12 to 16 here. I was not 16 years old, I was a child. So I was completely taken advantage of um, by people who were part of this network that started at that age. And I'm not the only one this happened to. I'd say that a whole lot of people who came to Canada um, then and now are being victimized as well without their knowing, without their knowing. So this programming can go on with this technology. I remember getting nightmares with the same images over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I couldn't understand why, because it wouldn't be something that, these were not things that I'd be thinking about, but the images were in my dreams. And now when I study these signals, I notice that when the power is turned up, that's when the images and the nightmares happen. So I put this under my head or around me as I do on the table. And I noticed on the days that I have these strange dreams, and especially the sexually weird ones, where you'd have group sex. That's a really good one that happens all the time. You're having sex with a lot of people. So this is how you're trained. You're supposed to be trained into being gang raped, and gang raping is something that's talked about outside the window. She was gang raped last night. And this is exactly what happens. So as the technology progresses, it used to be just lasers and microwaves stimulating your body and your brain. Now it's haptic technology, where in this structure, this condominium multi-unit structure above and below people, very easy to image you, and for the person to have a haptic suit on and to touch your body with the haptic technology and feel the touch on the hand. So if they penetrate your body openings, your mouth, your ears, they could actually feel the pressure, as if the sensation on the hand is almost as a touch. And I did some research. I thought these suits were very expensive, although I think the military grade type suits would be very expensive. But a haptic suit, you can get it for thousands of dollars. It's not very expensive at all. Not very expensive, and it's coming online more and more. People are talking about using it for sex, and I'm sure they already are. So this is not rocket science in this day and age. It's not rocket science. Anyway, so went off on a tangent there again. So let me I'm going to download these signals. My back is hurting, my hip, and I think I did a tweet this morning with my hip. Now I hear that this person called Rick, and there's a lot of Ricks. I don't know exactly who Rick is. He has Caribbean roots, and he is selling a link and the password to Caribbean people. Well, it's a global ring, so of course the Caribbean countries are going to be a part of it. So the obliques. and the air. This one is being pulsed. There's the pulse right there. Okay, so what's the temperature? 78.1. And this is sitting right next to me. We started at 74 point, was it 2 or something? 78.1. So I am going to take my, well, let's see what my temperature is. And my breast is being hit. And there. Oh, so the battery is low. So I am going to, I have to change the battery and the temperature on the thermometer. So I'm not going to be able to do that. I thought I had batteries around, but I don't. Okay, so what was I going to do? Take my blood pressure. So the EF reading. So I heard that the people that I'm being sold to by PK is going after my family members. So the same technology that's being used on me is being used on my family members. I heard outside the window. So 128/87, I'm in pain. See that yellow dot there? Power turned up. I'm looking for batteries, but so I can show you the temperature. But anyway, so this gives you a good idea of how much heat there is around my body. So that's about 4 degrees increase. I am going to take my blood pressure one more time. That's my back. And I'll download this data. Even though you're not seeing my back, I will download the data and put the link on there for you. And see how high that RF went, then it disappeared off the screen. Okay, so I'm gonna take my blood pressure one more time. So I tweeted some tweets about the possibility that since China is part of the New World Order, essentially because this order that's being imposed on us right now using COVID-19 scenario crisis. I was going to say experiment. Part of it is an experiment. So there is a new world order through the UN and through the World Health Organization. We're taking directives from a global body through these agencies. So there is a new world order coming into play, right? And China, of course, is trying to lead that because China is in bed with the head of the World Health Organization. And we in Canada is taking directives from the World Health Organization, of which China is playing a key role in influencing the policies and the guidelines. A new world order, pretty much. So there is a connection between China through PK. There's a Chinese connection. So there is a lot of trafficking ring in China. Human flesh is trafficked all over the place, men and women. And I'm living in an area with a very high Chinese population. So there's a lot of Chinese trafficking going on. There is trafficking in the building. So remote trafficking is just one part of that market. This has been going on in this building since I moved in. And of course, I'm not the only one who's being sold. I suspect that there are people who are consenting by not talking about it. You're consenting implicitly. So, so they're selling themselves and maybe getting rewarded in the workplace and any number of reasons, any number of other ways, I guess, that they understand that they're getting rewarded and they don't say anything. I am choosing not to be a part of that because I don't think somebody should be remotely accessing your body without your consent. Of course, now with COVID-19 and the social distancing, and we can't touch anybody and we can't hug anybody, God knows they're probably going to be coming to your house asking whether you kissed somebody or whether you had sex with your partner last night. You will need that remote outlet. So there is a market for it. Absolutely, there is a market for it. And it's going to be developed to the point where you're going to be sitting in front of your computer and your partner will be sitting in front of the computer and you're going to be having full-fledged sex remotely because now you're not allowed to touch anybody, God forbid. But let's not go there. I think you get an idea of what I think about the social distancing crap. Because I think it's crap. If somebody, first of all, if there are no openings in your body other than your face, and hopefully your genitals are covered, your mouth and your eyes and your ears is not an issue. So it's your nose, eyes, and mouth. So cover those areas. And what is the point? What is the big deal of bumping into somebody with your face covered, even if you're sneezing? So what's this deal with 6.5 feet apart, 2 meters, 6.7 feet apart exactly? What is this bullshit about social distancing? And how do you do that in a supermarket when the aisle is just 3 feet apart? And when you're passing each other, if you look down the aisle, I went yesterday to the grocery store. It's impossible to keep 6 feet apart. It's completely impossible given the grocery store and the setup of the aisle. So what do? Like if there is somebody in the aisle and you need to walk by, you turn around and you go through the other aisle, which is like 15 feet down the aisle, and then you have to backtrack another 15 feet. What about old people? Are they going to be able to do that? So, I mean, mandate face coverings. It doesn't have to be a muzzle, because I personally don't care for the mouth muzzle. It could be something like a hat, and you have a covering, like a veil, over it. Or you can have, like the Muslim people wear. You can have something like that. It doesn't have to be black. It could be nice and pretty and everything. And have your face covered, partially. Not your eyes, but your mouth and your nose with a see-through material. so you can be identified if you need to be identified. What's the big deal? What is this thing about social distancing? Of trying to keep people apart and keeping old people, apart, and you can't visit them even if you have a mask and a gown on. My brother had full-fledged pneumonia, like perfect. It was a perfect scenario to transmit. He was very contagious. He was coughing, and he was on an isolated ward, and I still had visited him. And I was perfectly fine, and I visited him about 5 times, and I was perfectly fine. Not a cough. It's bullshit, excuse my language. Okay, so 136 over 90. So I'm going to do it one more time. And that's because, of course, I'm being bombarded with these signals. And I think I'm going to have my heart checked out. It's very possible that I had a heart attack and wasn't diagnosed. Because these numbers are very, very concerning, because it indicates a very high sensitivity to the signals. And my question is, should it be that sensitive? If your heart is not performing 100% the way it should, then it becomes more sensitive to changing changing factors around it, like stress. And these signals not only causes emotional stress, it causes physical stress in the form of pain, and also it exerts pressure on your veins. So your veins could be constricted. So you have to the heart has to push the blood through, and it also thickens your blood. So then another factor that affects the heart. So it has to work harder. So 133 over 91, 69 heart rate. So I'm thinking that I'm going to get an irregular heartbeat. Well, the heartbeat seems to be, I could wrong. It's 67, 68, 69. So the heartbeats seem to be stable, but the blood pressure is increasing, which reflects the pain, because I am in pain. Like on my chest. See that? I'm cramping up in my chest area and my back. It feels like a pressure against your skin, and the pressure is extending inside of the cavity of your body, and it's actually pushing against the organs of your body and your veins and your arteries. That's exactly how it feels. Excuse me, 76.5. So it went back down. So yeah, so here, that's my chest being pulsed, reflecting in the pressure being increased. The obliques. And I just hiccuped. And I just got an acid reflux type reaction. The back. The back. Hiccup. Excuse me, a hiccup again. The mouth is being hit. And that's the heart. And this is why the pressure is all over the place. Red alert. Definitely feels like a red alert. $76.8. Temperature going up and down, up and down, up and down. Taking my blood pressure one more time. And the thermometer is just in front of me. See that? It's right in front of me. That's the thermometer, phone, and the detector. See that EF reading? It's pointing to my body. See that EF reading? 144/85. So the pressure is going up because the power is being turned up. That's very, very high. So the temperature is 77. So I'm going to put this camera back, so bear with me here. So that blood pressure is quite high. So I'll have to, what I'm going to do is go to the emergency, and I'm going to show the doctor these numbers. This is how high the power is turned up. And it went back down, 133/86. And I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting here. Nothing changed other than these signals. And the pain has eased up a bit. See the EF reading there? That's how high the power is on my hand right now. So the temperature is 76.6. One more time. And it's going on 40 minutes. So somebody's logged on and it says, what are you reading on the meter? Well, the meter is a spectrum analyzer. So it measures EMF, on electrical fields, and radio frequency fields. So radio frequency fields are the type that comes off a radar, the microwaves that come out of the microwave oven, your modem. Electromagnetic fields, of course, is I guess it's another way of measurement. The details you're going to have to Google yourself, because I read it, I understand it when I read it, but I don't understand it enough to explain it. So you're going to have to Google that yourself. The electrical fields are is a component, one part of an active denial type system. So active denial type system that's used to cause pain has two components, an electrical field and a millimeter wave field, which is microwaves. So when the power is turned up to cause more pain, the electrical component of the beam is being increased. So this is what you're seeing in this number here, the big number. That's the electrical field. So this here is the EMF, electromagnetic, and the one beside it is the RF. The electromagnetic field is the electromagnetic spectrum is made up of different radio wavelengths. So and I'm sorry, I don't understand it enough to explain it, but I understand it when I read it, like I said. So the technicalities of it, you're going to have to read yourself. Just Google electromagnetic fields. So the pressure went down 129/83. And I should correct what I just said. It's not that I don't understand it. I don't remember the technical terms enough to explain it properly to you, and I don't want to mislead you, because there's a lot of technical terms and a lot of math behind it that needs a deeper understanding of the way the calculations are made. It can get really complicated. Okay, so it's been 42 minutes. Maybe I should stop. And sorry about the ranting. It's just that I'm sorry about the swearing. Unlike a robot, I tend to get involved not only intellectually in what I do, I get involved emotionally in what I do. And the world, of course, is going the opposite direction, like in China. Take away the emotion and just deal with the intellectual side. But the fact of the matter is, and this is what makes the human race so fascinating, and we are so lucky to have a human body rather than have another form, an insect. We could have been, you could have been an insect instead, if you believe in reincarnation. And I do and don't, but anyways, I think there's a strong argument for reincarnation, let's put it that way. I mean, so back to my point, the human body, to be born a human being, is a gift that you can't put a price on. It's priceless. It's completely priceless, because what you could do with the human body is you cannot start to imagine if you use only the intellect, the left side of the brain. If you're completely left-sided, and you're like a mathematician tend to be more left-sided than right-sided, you're missing a whole spectrum, a part of the spectrum of the human experience, just 50% of it. Emotions is what gives life the flavor and gives life it makes it interesting and makes it sweeter, and it's essential. Emotions are essential, and just like the intellectual part of the brain that needs to be reined in, emotions need to be reined in as well. But you need both. You need both. You absolutely need both sides of your brain, or else God. Okay, so let's not bring God into it. If we didn't need both sides of the brain, let's call the universe, this intelligence that is creating the universe and running it, we wouldn't have been born with two sides of the brain. We would have been born purely intellectual, right? So obviously we need both sides, and we should use it. Emotions are just as important as logic. And you can actually gain more insights, and you can actually get a deeper understanding of experiences using emotion, using intuition. In my personal opinion, your emotional side is more important than the intellectual side. But let's go with the opinion that it's both equally important. Because in my personal opinion and from my personal experience, it is from my emotion that I gain my knowledge. It is from my emotional side that I make my decisions. If something doesn't feel right, it's not right, but that's me. Other people might need, both sides of their brain to make that decision. I go by my gut feeling, which is intuition, which is based on emotions. Anyways, robots are not for me. Chips are not for me. Roboticizing our environment completely. You could definitely use robots. We've been using robots for ages in manufacturing and so on. So they have the place and their uses. It sure as heck doesn't belong on my brain as a cap sitting on my brain for somebody else to interface with and tell me what to do. That is not managing a country. That is taking over the country, individual by individual. That's not democracy. That's satanic possession. That's a technocracy. It's not a democracy. Which is why I am speaking out against this COVID-19 fallout. Let's assume that it is real and it's not a conspiracy-based happening. The virus itself probably is real, and the effects of it is real. But the whole happening, the circumstances around what's happening, I believe is a conspiracy to bring in a technocracy, to have us chipped, vaccinated, tracked 24/7, and have the government knocking at your door in the form of the cops, asking you whether you kissed your wife last night or your husband last night. This is what China does to its people. China treats its people like crap. I did not migrate to China. I migrated to Canada. And I'm not going to sit on my behind and see Canada turn into China, because people like Bill Gates wants a chip up your arm because he makes money out of it. He and his pals make money out of it. And pushing vaccines that we don't need. I posted quite a few links this morning, 3 or 4 of them, from doctors who did studies and quoted research, referenced research that repeatedly and consistently found that vitamin D, large doses of vitamin D protects against the coronavirus, whether it be SARS or whether it be COVID-19. And it works in enclosed areas like older people who live in seniors' homes. And there is no need for a vaccine. So is the government always right? Well, actually, I should say, are the people who are advising the government officials, are they always right? Because I'm not anti-government. I think we need strong government. But the government could be infiltrated. The people in power could be surrounded by infiltrators that influences the policies that is rolled out. So there are a lot of doctors out there who are saying, no, we don't need a vaccine. But Bill Gates say, yeah, we need a vaccine. So why is Bill Gates driving this push for vaccinations when we don't need it? And we're going to put foreign material in the form of a DNA of a virus into us that's never been tested before and that could kill some of the people. And there is no proof that it works. For a cold virus, not for polio or for whatever, Ebola, for a cold virus. I mean, I'm already vaccinated for all these things, right? Polio, rubella, and whatever other vaccine that's called for by law. We already have that in our system. But do we need one for a flu? Another one, we already have vaccines for the flu. But do we need a DNA-based vaccine for the flu? Do we need social distancing for 2 years until they come up with the DNA vaccine, test it and everything, and then roll it out? Because that'll take about 2 years, and that's what the time period is talked about for social distancing, 2 years. And that's just the amount of time it takes to develop and test a vaccine before a general rollout to the public. It's a money-making scheme and a control scheme, a scheme to control us, monitor us 24/7. Double, as PK experiment in 25 Bamberg Circle goes. You're not allowed to have any secrets. Well, that's communist China. Somebody's always looking at you. Well, that's communist China. We are going to manage you. You don't have a voice of your own. Communist China. Somebody else is going to tell you what to do all the time. Communist China. You're going to be tracked and you're going to be monitored and you're going to be databased 24/7. And you're going to be led by a computer by your nose. Well, that's coming for everybody. People should wake up. Vitamin D, people. Vitamin C. Vitamin D has a more direct, and if you look at some of the links I posted today on my Twitter account, ROSHIMI911, you would see their link put on the YouTube. This video was put on the YouTube by an Indian doctor and she went through in exact detail, about what the disease is, what the virus is, how vitamin D, how the virus makes you sick. She detailed it step by step, and how vitamin D acts on the virus, or acts on the hormone, on the proteins that makes up the virus, as it affects the cell step by step. How vitamin D interferes with the destructive reaction that the virus has on the cell, and how it interrupts that destruction of our cells, our healthy cells, by the virus. It has a direct effect on the way the virus penetrates our cells and the way it breaks down the cells. The vitamin D interferes with that process. So it stops the cold. What's really what it is the cold, a bad form of the cold. We don't need a vaccine, and it's time we stood up. It's time we talked about no social distancing for 2 years. I could live with it for 2 months. Fine, we'll do it for 2 months. And even yesterday, I mean, in the grocery store, when you're shopping and you're looking around, and you've been doing this since you were born, and suddenly you're told to stop, you know, going up to a counter and looking at something, and you may be 3 feet apart rather than 6 feet apart. Are you going to get a ticket for that? This is how ludicrous it is. Or somebody comes up behind you and they too will forget sometimes, because this is not normal behavior to be 7 feet apart. It's not normal behavior. So you're so conditioned and you're so accustomed to coming up close to people and talking and looking at things in the grocery store, not in the grocery store, not necessarily talking, but looking at things that's close to each other in the grocery store. Sometimes you'd forget, especially kids. So cover them up, cover up the faces for a little while. A good alternative, cover the faces. Use hats with a mask, with a covering over it. Kids may have fun with it. Have fun with it. You don't need to be 7 feet or 6 feet apart. Okay, so it's 57 minutes and I'm going to stop there. Talk to you another time.